Seduction isn't about beauty. It's about a kind of understanding human psychology.
Seduction is a form of power. And basically what you're doing is you're getting people to kind of do what you want in the end, but they don't realize it.
You want to keep seducing the person that you're in a relationship with.
People do not have enough pleasure, right? It's probably the one thing that they're missing the most. It's an incredible, powerful device that fewer and fewer and fewer people in this world understand.
Seduction is by far the ultimate form of this, because what you're doing is you're creating pleasure for people. You're giving them kind of what they want, what they secretly desire. Seduction is the ultimate form of this power. It's what Napoleon Bonaparte said, putting your iron fist inside a velvet glove. So when people feel your hand on them, it feels so soft and velvety, but actually it's very firm and it's pushing people in the direction you want. So this is kind of a soft power. And seduction is by far the ultimate form of this, because what you're doing is you're creating pleasure for people. You're giving them kind of what they want, what they secretly desire. And not many of us have enough pleasure in this life. In fact, it's something that I think all of us lack. We wish we had more of it because we're so stressed and we work way too hard. Somebody who comes into your life and gives you something that you don't have, gives you an experience that's different, that's exciting, that's seductive and alluring, your guard comes down, your defenses go down. Normally, we're very resistant people. We're very defensive. But when somebody does something that gives us that pleasurable moment, our walls come down. We start losing some of that defensiveness. And now we're open to other things that they can do or say to us. And they have a power over us that they wouldn't have if they were so obvious and tried to make us do something. And so I thought seduction is the ultimate form of power in the modern world. And what I wanted to do in the art of seduction was get beyond just simple sexual seductions. You know, I've certainly described seductions between men and women, gay, lesbian, I even have a trans seduction in there. For sure, there's the sexual aspect, but I also talk about social seductions where you're seducing people in the work world. There's no sex involved. I talk about political seductions. I talk about marketing seductions. What is the psychology that ties all of this together? What is it about us human animals that make us so vulnerable and so open to this process of seduction? But the number one complaint I hear, and I hear it more often from women, but I also hear it from men, is not that the man keeps seducing me day in and day out, but that he started taking me for granted. He's become so familiar. In the beginning, he started taking me out to movies. He took me just exotic places, great restaurants. He dressed well. You know, he was kind of doing things that were very exciting. And now 6 months into the relationship, he doesn't do it anymore. He doesn't put any effort into it. He stopped seducing me in some way. And so the idea was, and I wrote about this in The Art of Seduction, I think it's chapter 24, is that you want to keep seducing the person that you're in a relationship with. You can't do it with the same intensity or it'd get tiring for both of you, right? Because we do want to settle into a relationship. We do want a degree of familiarity with the other person. We do want to feel comfortable. But upon occasion, you have to go back to those original moments that sparked your desire for the other person, that made that connection so electrifying between you. And you need to revive it. And you need to do some of the things that you did before, you know, whatever that is. Surprise them with a gift that says something personal about them, or take them to some place that they're not expecting, to keep surprising them. Because once the mystery is gone, once people are so familiar to you, there's something that's lost in there, you know? And so it's not that you're constantly seducing them. I don't think that's even possible. It's that you don't lose the sense of the fact that you have to think about the other person and their spirit and do things that continually surprise and excite them. You know, in the first part of the book, I have the 9 types of seducers. And I'm trying to tell you that you're going to be one of these types. You know, there's the siren, the rake, the charmer, the natural, the dandy, the charismatic, et cetera, et cetera. The dandy is a person who has a kind of androgynous edge to them. It's a man who has a slight feminine edge. It doesn't make him seem, gay or whatever, if he is straight. It just is intriguing. Think of like a Mick Jagger or a rock star like that, or a David Bowie. It kind of adds to their romantic allure. And there is a slight bisexual element to that, no doubt. And in a woman, it's a slight sort of masculine edge, like a Marlene Dietrich or a Madonna. And that slight edge of masculinity doesn't put men off, it excites them. And I explain why in that chapter. So that's the dandy. The rake is a man who has an intense interest in women. He understands them deeply. He's obsessed with women. And perhaps it comes from relationship going with his mother. We can analyze that as well. But he has this obsessive interest in them. He understands their spirit. He finds it very exciting to be around them. But one woman can never satisfy him. The only way he can get satisfaction is by constantly having new women in his life. That's how he satisfies this hunger, because the moment that a woman becomes familiar, it kind of loses the edge that he wants. He's kind of like a hunter. He loves the process of hunting the woman, of seducing her, of getting her to fall for him. And in those first few weeks, he showers her with attention. That's his power. He love bombs them. He's so excited about their world. He gives them gifts that show he's thinking about them. He takes them to exciting places. It's irresistible, right? And but the thing is, it can't last, because he has to continually spread the wealth. He has to continually find new people to conquer. And in the book, I kind of profile some of the greatest rakes who ever lived. And one of them is the great classic Hollywood actor Errol Flynn. Errol Flynn was this devilishly handsome man that didn't hurt, but he was also, in the end, people claimed that he had seduced or slept with about 3,000 women. And he died when he was 51, 52 from alcoholism.
Oh.
And so when I wrote the book, I kind of did the math on that. And the math was rather insane. It was like at some point he had to be seducing a new woman every other day, something like that. And I was trying to figure out what was his secret. What made him so insanely seductive to women of all types, actresses, waitresses, you name it. Of course, being Errol Flynn and having his reputation helped, but he also had a devilish edge that kind of scared a lot of women. But I read in one book that just being around, he was so comfortable with himself. He was so non-defensive. He was like an animal that was completely comfortable in his body. And it made the woman completely relax. This one woman said, I felt like I had drunk a couple of martinis and I hadn't, just by being around him, And so the rake has this kind of undefensive quality. He's like this natural animal that exudes this energy, kind of like how the siren is. So that's sort of what a rake is. You have one of these qualities in you. It's natural to you. You're kind of born with it. I don't care who you are or what your looks are or whatever. You have one of these qualities. Because seduction isn't about beauty. It's about a kind of understanding human psychology. And if you're too obvious in your seductive techniques, if you've read Robert Brooks' The Art of Seduction and you try to apply A, B, and C to a man or a woman, it's not good. It's going to fail because it looks too cold and calculating. But if you see this natural quality in you, if you know that you're a coquette by nature, somebody who blows hot and cold, and you know how to bring it out and make it more conscious and aware and put a little more emphasis on it, you're seducing without appearing unnatural. You're seducing without appearing like it's forced. Mm-hmm. It just comes from your personality, and that kind of makes it doubly effective.
The idea is that seduction is a form of power. And basically what you're doing is you're getting people to kind of do what you want in the end, but they don't realize it because you are so clever and you're so indirect, and you give people a feeling of pleasure that their defenses go down and they feel comfortable around you. They like you, they may even love you. And now you can kind of move them in a direction that you want. And people say, well, that's so ugly, that's so manipulative. But that is what seduction is. And it's not necessarily so ugly because it leads to, affairs, to romances, to perhaps marriage. It is kind of a pleasurable game. And the idea behind it is that in the world today, people do not have enough pleasure, right? It's probably the one thing that they're missing the most. They're so wired, they're so working so hard, they're so, single-mindedly focused on their careers, et cetera, that they're not having any pleasure. And then in our social world, everyone is so selfish and narcissistic that no one is really giving you attention that you like. Like if I were to try and seduce Pani, right, I would figure out what makes you different, what makes you unique, what you love in life that nobody else is giving you. Things from your childhood, things that make you excited, that you love, certain colors, certain flowers, certain gifts, certain places. And I would give that to you, right? I would get into your world instead of being obsessed with myself. I would get outside of myself into Pani's world, and I would say, this is what she is missing in her life, and I'm going to give it to her. The power of that is absolutely immense because nobody is giving that to you in general, right? And so a simple example would be, we have a conversation at a restaurant at night, we're having dinner, and you say some things that you're not really paying attention to, and they're just sort of off the cuff, but they kind of reveal something that bothers you or something that you really are excited about. And then the next day, I bring up what you said in a different form, perhaps. I kind of quote you or something, or I give it a different spin. And I don't call a lot of attention to it, but to you that goes, wow, Robert was actually really listening to me. He heard what I said. He understood kind of what was behind my words. That's really interesting. Nobody ever does that, Okay, and as that happens, you start becoming a little less resistant. You start seeing Robert in a different way. You say, maybe this person can give me things that I don't get from other people. It doesn't matter if that other person isn't the handsomest person in the world or isn't all buffed out, or et cetera. But they understand the psychology, right? They understand for a man what a woman is missing, or for a man what a man is missing for a woman. They understand this. That's what gives you the degree of seductive power in life. And that can make people fall in love with you. It can also mean in your office, you're not making people fall in love with you because that's kind of creepy, but you're making people like you. They feel charmed. You have a certain presence about you that you're empathetic, that you kind of understand them, that makes people want to be around you. Or it can be in politics. You know how to seduce people with your message. You can win elections. Or if you're marketing your product, you know what seduces the masses, and people will buy your product. It gives you immense power. Because if in politics, if in the office, if within the sexual realm or in marketing, you're too direct, you're too forceful, people will go, that's ugly. I don't want anything of that. You're in my face. But if you're indirect, if you come from here instead of from here, they have no defenses. They go, wow, I'm going to buy your product. I'm going to vote for you. I'm going to like you in the office. I'm going to have sex with you, or I'm going to fall in love with you. So it's an incredible, powerful device that fewer and fewer and fewer people in this world understand, right? Fewer and fewer people in the world are actually good at the seduction game because for whatever reason, we're not used to it. In the world of Tinder, etc., it becomes an app. It's not anymore your psychology. It's more like, boom, 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 right? But what's more important is understanding people's psychology, not an algorithm. That's like a machine. That's like a computer. That's not human. Humans have emotions. Humans have psychology. Humans have weaknesses. So get out of that boom, boom, boom. Spend time around people and get inside their worlds. There are a couple. I mean, enter their spirit, which is one of the strategies. Well, first of all, in seduction, I give the 9 types of seducer. And I try and say that if you're too obvious in your seductive moves, if people know, oh, Pani read The Art of Seduction and she's using it on me, that's not going to be very effective, right? So you have to feel natural. You have to feel like it's not a game you're playing, but it's part of your personality. You're naturally like this. And I give you these types of seducers, right?